Whenever we're speaking to a new entrepreneur about launching their product in independent retail stores, the biggest thing that they need to remember is pricing and desire. So when you're looking at the front end, you have to go into the retailer first before you even pitch the product. Make sure they're not carrying a competitive product. Make sure that your product is going to fit on their shelves and is going to be a good fit for their demographic, as well as when you go in, have an idea of where to put the product in the store. Because when you're taking the product in first, when you're going to your first 1 store, 10 store, 20 store, you're going to want to speak to the manager and have a conversation about whether they buy the product first. And if they say, well, it's not something that we typically carry, or we haven't had a similar product to this before, give them 5 units. Put it in the front, put it center, tell them it's on consignment, and then go and track how many people stop and see the product. Spend a little time in their store with their consent and see how people interact with the product. If they have any questions about it, if they pick it up and put it down, maybe you can go ask them why they picked it up and put it down. You want to figure out what you don't know, because only then are you going to be able to sell the product into more stores nationally. When you're getting started, you got to start small. You got to start local. You got to focus in on the small things that make your product move off the shelf. And you're not going to know that until you put it on the shelf. So you focus on those initial retailers, finding out what you don't know, and then you move into pricing, because you're going to have different pricing, whether it's in Manhattan or Boise. You're going to have to figure out kind of where that sits. And then you're going to want to back into your margins, because you need to figure out if it's profitable. The stores on the front end for the initial retailers, they're going to want 50%. They're going to want a keystone, if not more. So it depends on the product line, but they're going to want 50% on the front end. And then on the back end, you got to space out for a distributor, because once you're successful, you're not going to be able to ship the products to every single retailer throughout the country. Or if you bring on a large retailer, then you're going to have to be able to slot it into their systems, which means advertising costs, slotting fees potentially. Some charge management fees every year, every month. And then you have logistics to think of. So there's a lot on the back end that you need to space out for on the front end when pricing your product. Because if you come in too low and you don't have room to expand or plan for the future, then you're not going to be able to get out of that local market and take it national, because you might be selling well locally, but you don't have the margin and the pricing that is going to sell nationally. So figuring that out on the front end is very important when trying to focus on starting and getting your initial stores for your retail products.